Hey, Kyle here, and we're going to be comparing this 2019 BMW X5 xDrive50i in the G05 chassis code to my F15 chassis 2016 BMW X5 xDrive50i. So you can see this does have different package options. So this has the side skirt as well as the plastic wheel arches and rear bumper instead of all painted. So it has that off-roading look to it, as well as having roof rails. I walked away from the car there, you saw the taillights illuminated and it sounded, and that's because it does have a key sense, so it detected that I was walking away from it, and as you get closer to the vehicle with the key in your pocket, it'll unlock and get ready for you to drive. So it'll move the seats and adjust everything for you. So visually, the taillights are bigger. The whole car looks bigger, the headlights are bigger. The grille, much larger. But you can see it still has the parking sensors visible everywhere. This still does have soft close, so you bring the door almost to closing position and it'll pull itself in the rest of the way without you having to do that to prevent damage to locking mechanisms. In the rear here, walk up and press the button behind there. That still opens power. However, the difference here is this is a power lower tailgate. And then in this exact vehicle, it does not have the third row seats, but it does gain some storage since it doesn't have those back seats. Let's go ahead, and it still has our buttons up here for the tailgate. We'll press that button. You can see the top folds itself up and begins to close. You can see the new taillight design with the turn signal in the center and the bright rear brake lights. You can also notice that the xDrive50i is located on the back and no longer on that door. On the F15, it is just in the back right side is the X5, and then on the door is where the xDrive50i is located. Just with the different packages, this has a plastic instead of body colored bumper. It also gains those roof rails, but it still has the roof fin. And this has dual exhaust. However, it is not a rectangular exhaust. This is 2 exhausts per square section. So inside you can see those individual tailpipes. Here's your recovery hook. You can see there's no towing package on this vehicle. There's no hidden trailer hitch showing anywhere. Proportions, it just looks taller in my opinion. Hey, this is Kyle, and today we're going to be comparing this BMW F15, so this is a 2016 BMW X5 xDrive50i, to that 2019 BMW X5 xDrive50i with the 4.4 liter V8 and ZF8 transmission. So this is the M Sport, as you saw. It also has this M Sport kit on it, which features the octagonal trapezoid tips. It also has rear air suspension. You can see that this has the trailer package, so I do have the trailer lights and the tow ball, as well as my chain connect. It also has these fender flares, fender extensions. I think this vehicle looks very nice, in my opinion. It gave good value. You can see the grille is much smaller and better fitting to the vehicle, but it looks a whole lot shorter than that G05 did. And these are the 20-inch wheels. This does have soft close, just like the G05 did. So you see, it pulled itself closed there. Then as we move on to the rear, we have those different taillights that doesn't have the seam in the center. And another thing to note is that the top hatch is power, the bottom is manual. So you do have to pull that lever and pull it down yourself. Then you can see our third row seats there. You can go ahead and pull that and pull the seat up if you'd like. And then here you can see we lost that storage space just because of that third row. But with that third row, you also gained the standard for a third row air suspension. See that we have our rear parking assist, and this is sapphire black metallic with Dakota black leather. There's some bigger differences that happen once you're inside, so let's go ahead and take a gander from the front driver's side. And here's just another difference here, is all your controls are kind of like sculpted up, so that they're easy to reach for the driver, as well as this double pane glass is another nice feature. And these are all one touch as well, like we're used to. Arm and Cardan. And having the rear hatch button, so you can push it down to open it and pull it up to close it. Still having that trim, speakers, as well as that storage. And then if you look to the left here, you can see our fog light options, parking light options, automatic headlights, and our cluster brightness. We still have our fan over here for air conditioning or heat. You can see this entire cluster is digital, so that it can adjust when you're driving. It puts the map in the center, so you can see. We'll click map, so you can see our turn right here, as well as the two right there, the two traffic lanes. You can see our turn right there and the two traffic lanes. And you should be able to see the small HUD right there, which is very nice. It shows you your speed limit on the left and then your current speed on the right. So that's still the same. This panoramic roof, it's different sections. So you can see the front small section is the one that moves in the rear display section. But the difference is, once we go ahead and close this and pull it closed, which is automatic, that this is more of a mesh and you can still see the sun through it. Whereas in the F15, it's a solid piece, and we will be demonstrating all of that as well. So you can see our differences here with the center console area, as well as our gauge cluster, screen, buttons. You can see as I got closer to the vehicle, it did unlock and get ready. It has a different position for your arms to rest on, and your handles are different. They're much larger here. Here's our passenger seat position settings, as well as your unlock and lock button. Same padded leather dash, so nice and soft. It's got some a different trim option, but it's got this metallic trim and wood. And our soft touch and some leather here that needs to be cleaned, but leather nonetheless. It also has these nice soft seats with adjustable bolsters. Difference here is these are power bolsters. Otherwise it's the same rest of the seat options here. So the adjustable top half of your back seat can move forward or move back for you, as well as that reclining section. So you have two reclining modes on that passenger seat, as well as moving forward and backward, and raising and lowering the entire seat, as well as your bolsters for the side here. Those options are still present. You can see inside of here it does say X5. And in the rear, you still do see your, again, you still see that new arm rest position style. You don't want to put them up here on this soft leather. You put it down here on this more padded leather. Get your window switch control, as well as your door. And these windows just look a little larger to me. Big field door. So these bigger differences are this screen right here. You can see it's a much larger screen. And in addition to having this iDrive controller that brings you home, shows you your displays, your radio controls, everything from here, your map, everything that you want. It's also touchscreen with built-in Apple CarPlay, so you can read your news, you can have it read to you, you can do anything with Google Maps, you can do Spotify, you can see your apps are located here as well. And this is a nice screen. It's clear. It's not as bright during the day as my F15, but it does work. And then inside the center, once we start the car, this is another difference. The start button is located down here on the console instead of right here. So you can see I press that button. It brings that right to where the last setting was, to my settings. And you can see right here, you can see in this nice screen, it has your maps in the center, as well as having the HUD up here, so you can see your speedometer nice and easy in the same heads-up display that we're used to, but you just have the addition of the maps right here, which I find to be handy to prevent you from looking all the way over here and messing with all your controls over here. You set your navigation before you go, so you do your maps, you select everything you want before, and then it'll pop up on here as well as in your heads-up display. So you also have all your FM options, your FM, AM, Sirius XM, Bluetooth, or you can use obviously your Apple CarPlay, which has Spotify or anything else that you want. You also have physical knobs still, so you can see we still have physical air conditioning controls, buttons to adjust your safety sense, buttons for your drive modes, so Sport, Comfort, Eco, Pro, as well as your cameras. So you can see the rear camera. When I press that, you can see the rear camera. You can select front cameras as well. You can select parking if you wanted to self park. You have the auto hold button still, as well as your electronic parking brake, but you have the addition of hill descent control here. On the steering wheel, you still have your cruise control settings, so cruise on, cruise off, resume, cancel, modifying your speed, as well as your volume controls, next track, and your phone controls. You also still have the M Sport steering wheel with its thick bolsters, as well as paddle shifters, and your wiper controls are still the same for the rear on the right section, and then your normal wiper controls towards the center of the stock, but your turn signals are different. If you'll notice, when I go ahead and tap that up, that's what we're used to. We're used to a triple tap, but it normally returns to center on the F15. It actually stays like a normal vehicle would in its position if you're turning right, or if you're turning left, it stays in its down position instead of returning to center. So that's different. And then there's one other difference I will show you in the door. And the biggest differences I see while I'm driving this vehicle, and the biggest differences between the two, I don't feel too much of an engine power difference because it is that big twin turbo V8. The turbos are obviously more efficient, better at getting air in, but I don't feel too much of a difference. Like, it's not. And then the other difference is this does not have the ventilated seat option, but that could just be the spec of the vehicle. This screen is nice, but you can see all of the neighborhood streets on that gauge cluster, which I do like that gauge cluster a lot. And I do also like that Eco Pro has individual settings, so that you can set all those functions, but then you can also maintain your driving dynamics. You can keep your sport steering if you're just trying to leisure around. You can still keep that sport stiff steering instead of having that super ultra light comfort steering. So that's also nice to have option. It's also quieter, just due to those double pane windows, probably some better isolation that it provides. Otherwise, they're both fantastic driving vehicles. Let's go ahead and get into the car. And you can see our ceramic shifter here. We do still have all of our normal gears. So we have reverse, neutral, drive, as well as manual with manual shifting with park, and our iDrive controller is very similar. Up here we have our cup holders, and if you push this more, you have a tiny pocket and a power outlet / cigarette lighter. But it's not as deep, and you can't, you don't have that wireless charging that the G05 did. That was right here. The control stack looks a little different. The volume knob is still down here with all of our presets. We have that CD player. However, these air conditioning controls look different. On the G05, they're all metallic with individual screens up here. On this model, all of our settings for the screen and all of our individual settings are right there. We also have this other screen. Instead of it being that large touch screen, we have a non-touch screen, so that the only way you can interface with it is this iDrive controller right here. So you can see the data technology. We do still have these nice comfortable seats. So you can see it's a nice plushy leather. We still have the adjustable headrest, so you can sculpt it to your head if you'd like, or you can keep it flat. The difference here is that this is a hard roof instead of that mesh cover that the G05 had. And you can also see that the front section of the panoramic sunroof is much, much larger. So you'll actually get all of this room for to open, so you can get some more air movement as opposed to the G05. If we go ahead and get the car started, your start button is here instead of down here like it was in the G05. We go ahead and start the car. You can see our dials are a little simpler. We just have some trim dials, some aluminum trimmed dials or gauges for our fuel, our speedometer, our tachometer, and our oil temperature. And then we just have a couple simple ones for the time, the miles, and temperature, outside ambient air temperature. On our steering wheel, we have our turn signal, which if you see the G05, this returns to center and keeps the steering or the turn signal on. And then when you tap it down, you can also just tap it up to do a triple tap to have it display for 3 seconds. On the G05, it holds that up into its position instead of returning to center. We have our paddle shifters with this M Sport wheel, our cruise control, our volume settings. But you can see here our window controls. They're kind of way down there. On the G05, it's a lot easier and more convenient because they're raised up for the driver. We also have our lock controls. If we go ahead and put a window down, we can see that this is only single pane glass. You do see our safety setting there, that's blind spot monitoring. You also see our Harman Kardon audio placed throughout, and then on the rear doors as well. And then up in here, this is, as we saw, this is not a touchscreen, so you have to interact with it with this. However, I put in an aftermarket MMI box, which is a multimedia interface box, so that I could have CarPlay, so that I could select the music that I wanted. I could do telephone calls, or I could do maps. If I wanted to search for a restaurant, I can actually just do it on my phone, select a restaurant, or I can do it through the screen here. We still have this button in the center for all of our intelligent safety settings. We have our nice deep pocket. And we have our seats here with our individually opening center console. We have our auto hold. And it's still a very nice car overall. Let's take a look in the back seat here. You can see this is the M Sport. And the back of the seats looks the same, aside from this has the rear entertainment package. They still have the rear controls, including rear heated seats, so they can set the air conditioning the way they want, the heat the way that they want. The passengers can. But I think this room, the amount of room in the back is a bit shorter than it was in the G05. This seat can adjust, so you can pull it forward. If you pull this lever, you can pull it forward to give the rear passengers, which this does have the third row of seats, which we'll take a look at in just a second here. So we do have that adjustability. As well as the ability to fold this seat down to gain access and give a larger load floor to that rear if you need to have a larger item. You can see the seat sculpt is still the same with the separation seam, so that that top of that seat can fold forward, which I'll display in just a moment. You can see that with this executive package, it has the sunshades that I don't believe the G05 offers anymore. It does ride a little bit different, but the engine feels just as peppy and smooth because it is 445 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. And we still have that heads-up display right there. So I believe this is providing good value for your money when you can attain one of these for $20,000 to $25,000, and the 2019 to 2023 models are all in the $40,000 to $50,000. So for about half the price, you still get quite a lot of value for your money with this. Having 77,000 miles with a warranty for the next 5 years is very nice. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.